All right, welcome back, Powers on Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jason. We're very much a lot of pleasure. We're going to talk to Coach Jim Leavitt. We are going to review the national championship game where Georgia makes some history last night in Los Angeles, wins their second back-to-back national titles in a row with a convincing, overwhelming 65-7 win over TCU. We're also going to preview some of the NFL wildcard games this weekend. Coach has got a lot of experience in the NFL playoff wise. He was with the 49ers several years ago when they made their runs to the Super Bowl with Jim Harbaugh. And so we're going to get his thoughts about just the preparation during a wild card weekend and such. And then a little, like I said, a little chatter here on the national title game. Welcome back, Coach.
Well, it's good to be back. It seems like we haven't been together for a little while, and a lot of big games. TCU, getting by Michigan was, I thought Michigan played poorly,
Right.
Made a lot of bad decisions, coaching decisions, and it just hurt them. And it was kind of part of the fairy tale or the Cinderella story, that TCU was riding ever since they ran out there and kicked that game-winning field goal against Baylor.
Right.
when the clock was running down.
Right.
And but you know what? They beat Michigan. They got into the title game, and it just ran out of gas.
Right. I mean, anyway, let's start with the TCU perspective. Obviously, going into the game against Georgia, you knew TCU was going to must have to play the perfect game. No turnovers, efficient on offense, catch a break or two in special teams potentially, and none of that happened early. They fumbled the ball early. They went 3 and out early. Georgia jumped all over them. Do you think even Coach Dykes made the comment he thought his guys maybe were a little overwhelmed early in the game? He talked about it at halftime with the reporter that he thought maybe his players were a little overwhelmed early. What did you see just watching the game? Did TCU, their guys look like they were just overwhelmed early by the moment?
Well, they came back. They were down 10-0. They came back and scored. And it was 10-7 on a busted coverage by Georgia. I don't know. Obviously, Georgia just, the thing is a couple things. One, the offense coordinator for Georgia did a great job.
Terrific.
They ran a lot of boots, and they kept, and the quarterback moves good enough to buy time. They ran some counter, they ran some trap, and they ran a number of follow routes or wheel routes that really was tough for TCU to defend. And the quarterback had time to throw them, and the quarterback was that good. I mean, he reminds me of Grothy. He's just a football player.
Right.
And then the quarterback run play was huge. The quarterback scrambling the one time on 3rd down 10 that he ran a naked boot, and he outran the defensive end and got the first down. And then also on the touchdown run, he ran for 2 touchdowns. I thought they didn't run that many plays, but what they did was they were well thought out, well schemed, and the quarterback was very good. And then give a lot of credit to the one receiver and the tight end. My gosh,
that tight end,
what a player he is.
Yeah, that tight end. That's the one thing I noticed that Monken really focused on doing. He didn't get a lot of touches last week against Ohio State. They made it a point to get Brock Bowers involved very early, and like you said, they gashed him on some wheel routes, and he was a major focal point of that offense in that first half.
I also thought there was a couple bad calls. Like a holding call on the big tight end because he has hands out.
Right.
He probably assumed that he was grabbing him. I didn't think he held him.
Right.
And then there was another holding call that I didn't think was holding at all. But that's my opinion. That's enough of that comment. But it wasn't obviously officiating that had anything to do with the game. But you're right. Monkey did a great job. He did a really good job. That 3-3 defense is interesting. It's just I don't know. It's a deal where people can exploit them. With that rush and all that, and they wanted to stop the run, but they couldn't. So, I don't know. It was.
And you really saw Georgia's dominance physically. Their defensive line just overpowered that offensive line for TCU. You saw the offensive line strength of Georgia. I mean, they were getting 7-8 yards a carry on offense. And like I said, against a lighter box, a quote-unquote 3-3 box, which I know can give us a better X's and O's. It's just if you can get that running game going, those DBs are in big trouble covering the play action.
Right. I mean, they really are. It's I don't know, I've got you. I got to put you on hold for 1 second. I know
Sure.
you hate this,
You're
but
good.
I have to.
Go ahead. We'll wait for Coach Leavitt to rejoin us here in just a minute. Got a call he had to take, but yeah, we're just talking Georgia TCU, just the tremendous effort by Coach Monken and that offensive staff and Kirby Smart. You just saw a championship performance by Georgia last night. I mean, that's why they are the elite program that they are. So yeah, you saw just domination by the Bulldogs, and we're going to get back to Coach Leavitt here in just a second here.
Are we back?
Yeah, you're good, Coach. Welcome back.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I had a little thing. I had to answer that.
No problem at all.
That's part of the real world, right?
That's it, man. Technology. It's the beauty of this technology.
No, okay. So now I can focus in on the 3-3. They've been pretty good. I've always felt like it's a defense that might be able to accommodate, and they did. Against the spread, when West Virginia ran that defense against us when I was at South Florida, I always felt like we could run the ball on them. I was surprised that Michigan wasn't able to. That was impressive, but Georgia gassed them at times on the outside and the perimeter, sealed some plays. They started to pop a few things inside when they pulled trapped and did some counter. I've always thought that the defense at 3-3 was a good defense, but not a great scheme. But it sure got TCU to the championship game. They played, but Michigan got 500-something yards in that.
Yeah.
That defense. So but Sonny wanted to run that 3-3. That's something he wanted to do, and they got all the way to the national championship game when nobody ranked TCU. Nobody expected them to do anything. So give them all the credit in the world.
They were 200-1 odds, Coach, when the season started to make the national to win the national title. 200-1.
All right, how about that?
All right, as a coach in a game like last night, I don't care what scheme you're running. At what point in that game do you realize, we are just outmanned, and we got no chance here to stop these guys?
Well, when it was 10-0, you started to get a little worried. The busted coverage helped going in there and scoring me at 10-7.
Right.
But you always want to start off fast in a game, and TCU didn't do anything on their first possession, but then Georgia, I think they got stopped, and then Georgia went to work. I don't know if they did get stopped. I don't think they got them stopped.
I don't think
half.
So. Yeah.
But
what is that feeling like? What is that feeling like when you're the defensive call, when you're the play caller on defense, and I don't care what I call in this call sheet, we're in big trouble here.
No, it's not a good feeling. I was that way at SMU a year ago when we played Cincinnati. At Cincinnati, they're just so good 2 years ago, and they won all their games, and we just nothing seemed to work. Now I haven't been in that situation that many times,
right?
But I've been there, and it's a horrific feeling, and it's tough, because those guys. Those players are embarrassed. Those coaches are embarrassed, and they got to live with it for the rest of the year until they start playing games. They'll talk about the season a lot and how well they did, which they should. They had a great year, but boy, that's a tough one. The last game like that, just really is.
Let's talk a little Stetson Bennett from Georgia. This kid was a kid that former walk on. No, he stuck it out at Georgia. Give the kid all the credit. He had to go to junior college, came back, still didn't get an opportunity. He took advantage of the opportunity he did get the last 2 years. MVP of all 4 playoff games that he played in. He was the MVP. Just talk about a kid like Stetson Bennett. I know you've been around a lot of kids like that are under recruited and all that stuff. What a tribute to that kid to hang in there.
Yeah, I tell you what, Stetson did a great job. I was so impressed with him, with his feet, his ability to keep plays alive, to keep his eyes downfield. So impressed with him, and he's just a gamer, and he's tough, and he's a competitor, and you saw the resilience of him in the Ohio State game. Ohio State they hit the field goal. Obviously, Ohio State's in that championship game. What do you think they're thinking right now? But
I mean, geez.
but he willed that team back to win, and I was so impressed with him. We'll see what happens in the NFL, whether he'll measure up and do the things he can do in the NFL. He kind of reminds me of Drew Brees a little bit. You know what I mean? Because Drew Brees is not that big and he's mobile, and Drew Brees is just a heck of a quarterback. When he's with Purdue, and so
kid
we'll
Brock
see
Purdy,
what happens.
the kid for the 49ers right now, Brock Purdy, undersized little guy. I mean, he's doing it.
You're right. So that this will be a fun story to see. How he does, and there's some really small quarterbacks that are doing pretty well in the NFL. So, with the offenses are changing in the NFL, and they're adapting more to the mobile quarterback. You look at Mahomes and what Kansas City's been able to do. So, I wouldn't put anything past this guy. He's impressive.
And the funny part is this kid's going to go down in the lore of Georgia football as the greatest Georgia football player potentially of all time, over Herschel, over all these legendary guys. A little walk-on from Blackshear, Georgia, win 2 national titles in a row. Going to never have to pay for a meal again in his life in Athens, a beverage, anything this guy wants, he'll be able to get, in the state of Georgia. It's just a great story of college football and perseverance.
No, it really is. And just think about right now. He probably didn't sleep at all last night. I mean, I wouldn't have if I was him.
Yeah.
And he's probably just going to stay on a cloud for a little while until he starts preparing for the NFL.
Right.
But what an incredible story. It's just such a great story.
Yeah, it really is. All right, like in the comment you made is so apropos. What is Ohio State? I mean, as bad as that game was last night, they were that close to knocking off Georgia a week ago in a game they really dominated most of the game.
They did. I was very surprised Georgia won that game, and I thought Ohio State played like they did at the beginning of the year, which is what Georgia did when they played Oregon. Earlier they just everything. They just played really well, and it's just. Georgia's just that good. They're really, really good. But Ohio State's really good. And, who really is the best team out there?
Right.
You got to wonder how Michigan beat the dog out of Ohio State, in the Big Ten championship game. And, like we started this podcast a long time ago. I always said, just like with South Florida, you should have had Florida beat, in Cincinnati.
Right.
I mean, any one game, you just don't know. You can win if you just got everybody going.
That's right. All right, one more coaching question. We'll move on to the NFL. Kirby Smart, 2-time national champion now. Obviously, in most people's eyes, he's kind of taken the mantle as the program of now. How do you, if you're Kirby Smart, I know you coaches are always about the grind, but how do you not mentally want to say, I'm going to take a week off. We're not doing nothing, guys. We're going to celebrate and enjoy this. And I get it, coaches. You guys always want to be doing the next thing, recruiting, all that. Don't you have to just say, hey, guys, we're going to take a few days off and not even think about football and enjoy this for what a great job they've done?
No, I mean, you're going to take tonight, or maybe last night. And no, and the coaches know that. They got to get through this next signing day.
Okay.
And then what I would do is I used to do that with my staffs. I gave them a week vacation after the signing date in February.
Okay.
So if it was the first Wednesday or February 1st, I always gave them 4 weeks off, 3 weeks in the summer, and then a week after signing date. So you had 4 weeks. And then the rest of it, the coaches, and especially strike when the iron's hot. Right now, those coaches are going to want to go out and recruit. They're going to want to try to get those top players. There's 2 or 3 players probably they're trying to decide between Alabama, Georgia,
Texas, USC,
right? Those schools, and you got to grind it out. And as a head coach, you bring your staff together. You're congratulating them. You tell them, "Hey, I love you guys so much, but you understand we got to grind it out. I'll give you time after the signing date. So I believe that's probably what will happen.
Okay. Is it nice to get one of those nice bonus checks, whether it's an NFL playoff check or a nice big national championship bonus check that I'm sure these coaches have in their contracts? That's a pretty nice feeling, huh?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I got 3 of them with the Niners. We went to the championship game, 3 NFC championship games and Super Bowl. So that extra money was always fun to get. So I certainly understand that.
All right, let's transition to the NFL playoffs. And it's go time now in the NFL.
Right.
You've lived this life, you know it. Talk to me about preparation in just team preparation in a playoff week versus a regular week. How much different is it than a normal week 10 preparation or a big game in the regular season as opposed to a playoff game? What's any differences in preparation?
Oh, there's a lot of differences, and you're going to stay with your same stuff that you've been doing because that's your foundation. But you're always looking for an edge, and you're always looking for something that you could do that has not been scouted. Offensively and defensively, and certainly in the kicking game. But your players are wired like they never have been, and these are grown men that understand what the stakes, and they understand how much more money they're going to make as they get through the playoffs.
Right.
When you go into a playoff game, the demeanor of your players is very different. And again, like I said, I went through it for 3 years, and you go in that locker room, and it's very, very different. I mean, some guys are so much on edge, you don't want to say a word to them. You just don't. They used to talk about Justin Smith with us at the Niners. I'll never forget Jim Tomsula, the first year we went to playoffs when I hadn't been in the NFL. He comes up to me and says, "Whatever you do, don't say a word to Justin Smith." And I go, because I usually went around, shook hands with all the players. He said, "Just don't get near Justin Smith. He gets into a mood that he might haul off and just hit you just because he wants to hit somebody." And so I remember it wasn't all that way, but I remember the first year I saw Justin locker room. I went the other way. I didn't say a word to him. And then, as I got around the team more, I talked to Justin a little bit, but I didn't say much. Those guys, they know how to prepare. These guys are grown men. They're in the Super Bowl that been through great programs. They know how to prepare. They know how to prepare themselves physically and mentally.
So I would assume physically you're probably going to do a lot of walkthroughs, not very little contact. It's all going to be just kind of walk through mental stuff. Do you guys focus on, to me, if I'm a defensive guy and offensive guy, is red zone and third down the two areas that you really spend a lot of time on?
Well, you always do anyway. You're always going to have your third down, third and long, third and medium, third and short, and certainly your red zone as you build it in. We called our you see on announcers, they say red zone starts at 20. We never started red zone until the 15. And so you're going to have a series of plays from the 15, from the 12, from the 10, from the 8, from the 6, from the 4, from the 3, 2, and 1. And you're going to work those pretty hard. That's just part of the deal. And you're going to work it like always. The contact, there's not going to be much contact. Some of the players are going to want to get some hits on their own way, because they don't want to just go in without something. But remember, it's a long season. You're playing 23, 24 games if you get to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
So those guys, their bodies are a lot of times, they've got to take care of their body in a special way, but they're beat up a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, again, you're right. I mean, you guys aren't going to be doing much. What about the the travel perspective of this? I mean, I know it's a normal. These guys are used to traveling, but again, you got the Chargers having to come all the way across country to Jacksonville. You got Dallas having to go from Washington last week now to Tampa next Monday night. Does that play any effect? Will teams leave a day early to give those guys another extra day to rest? Will they travel any differently?
Yeah, I think a lot of those teams will leave a day early. And to give them more time. I don't know. I'm not a part of these teams right now, but and we never really had trouble all the way across the country. Well, we played Atlanta to get to the Super Bowl. And you know what? I'm trying to remember if we left 2 days earlier or not. I don't remember, but I'm sure they will. I would,
right,
to make sure your players could get there and got enough rest. And anymore, it's more of a mental preparation anyway. Studying the scouting reports, you really probably had a cut up film that you're going to show them that have all the top plays that you're working on, mostly first, second down plays. And then you're going to have a cut up of, like you said, the third down plays and the red zone plays. Now those will be, you'll practice against them on the field, but you'll also have a cut up of those plays.
When you are scouting a team in the playoffs, do you scout formations or do you scout particular players? Like, hey, we want to go after that left cornerback, or we want to go after that right guard. Is it more formationally, or is it particular players, or both?
It's both. You're going to go by formation, but you also go against down and distance and field position, and then you're also going to have cut ups of the top players, the running backs. You're going to certainly have maybe a cut up of the quarterback. On some of the mechanics that he has, and trying to find a weakness of him moving to the right or moving to the left, or
particular offensive lineman struggles with certain twists and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Those things are, it's a microscope, and you're probably not sleeping much as a coach. You're going to go till 3 or 4 in the morning, just studying the film and trying to find indicators for your players.
How about if it's an opponent you've already played, like San Francisco's playing Seattle? They've already seen them twice. I mean, at what point can you say, hell, we're not going to be able to come up with anything new? We've shown everything we're going to show. Is it more just about who's the better players, or are you really still thinking there's ways to figure out an additional nuanced scheme or an additional nuanced call you can make or not make?
You want a nuance. you're especially if you played them twice already. You really want to do some self-report or self-study and look at what you've done and what you've called in the last 2 games, and so what they're looking at, and you definitely, especially when you play them a couple times, you want to look at some things you can do differently to try expose something, in offense or defense or kicking.
And and the last part of this equation is the coaching part of things, game management decisions by these head coaches. I mean, how important is that in these playoff games? And we've seen it, whether it's coaches using timeouts at inopportune times, not challenging when they probably shouldn't challenge, all these things that are critical. And you got some young coaches, you got, for example, you got Doug Peterson, a championship coach, versus Brandon Staley, first ever playoff game. Talk about that dynamic of the coaching part of things.
Well, I think it's all important. I think coaching is very important. I mean, you look at the call that was made with the Saints when they opened the second half of the onside kick,
right,
in the Super Bowl, and you tell me that wasn't a big play. Well, of course it was. I mean, to make that call is tough. I don't know. It's everything's on the line. You're in a Super Bowl, for goodness sakes. I think you've got to coach. I mean, you got to be smart what you do. You can't do some foolish things, but you got to play to win, and you got to be aggressive in your calls.
That's the thing. Are coaches going to play to win or play to survive? To me, that's what separates these great coaches. The coaches that are aggressive. You saw Sunday night, Dan Campbell ran a little flea flicker play at the end of the game. I mean, and I know he didn't have anything on the line, but he played to win the game. He wasn't going to give Rodgers the ball back. He went for it to win the game.
I was so impressed with them, and I know Aaron Glenn really well, the D coordinator with Detroit. And in fact, at one point in my career, I thought I was going to end up there. But I texted Aaron because I thought the players played with so much passion.
They did.
And I was impressed with that, and I know you appreciate that. But I was really impressed with Detroit. I watched their Hard Knocks before the season started.
Yeah,
and I kind of followed them a little bit, because of Aaron. I thought they did a great job. I watched that game really close, and I agree with you. I thought they coached extremely well. I thought they had their players ready to play, and they outplayed Green Bay, and when Green Bay had everything on the line,
they did. All right, Coach. Give me a sleeper team in both conferences that you like, that you think could do a little damage. I know a lot of talk down here. We got Dallas is coming to Tampa next Monday night. Are you going to the game?
I'm probably not going to go to this game, Monday night game. My girls, it was just too much, and but I'll watch it.
Dad, they're going to want to go to the Monday night game now. Come on,
they already asked me, but they already asked. I think the Bucks. I think the Bucks. I got to pull for them. They haven't. I mean, they keep pulling things out at the end of these games, but they played so well against Carolina that I know they're probably feeling confident. I know the Atlanta game, I get that, but I knew they weren't going to play a lot of their top players. So, that, and psychologically, you don't want to. You don't want anybody hurt, but also if things don't go well, you want to keep the confidence. But you got to watch out those 49ers, boy, they're playing well.
They are.
And their defense, So it'll be interesting to see. Kansas City's always so good, and so it'll be interesting.
What'd you think when you saw the Buffalo run for a kickoff back for a touchdown after that? What an emotional moment, huh?
I didn't even mention Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's, wow, how good are they? So I don't know how this is going to play out. It's going to be fun to watch.
All right, Coach. We appreciate the time. We may get you one more time during the playoffs. Get a little playoff analysis from you. Great job throughout the year. Hope everything's going well. And let those girls stay up a little late one night to watch that Bucks Cowboy game.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, Coach. We'll see you soon. Take care. All right, we'll be right back on Powers on Sports Podcast.